Hello and welcome to Hardcast, and join us for the epic crossover event of 2016 Valiant. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And my name is Chris.
Lifeline, give me 4001 AD.
Issue 1. Lula meets her parents to say goodbye to them just before their sector is jettisoned back to Earth. Lula stays on New Japan to go after father. Rai and his gang find an old exosuit that is much more massive than what we know. That was apparently used in the Exo War. Rai awakens the armor and the three of them blast off to attack father in New Japan. Then they fight. And that's pretty much the entire description of that issue.
No mention of the entire country turning into a giant mecha dragon.
Oh, I didn't see that as relevant.
Okay, no, of course not. No, it isn't. I guess in terms of the actual plot point,
but it also doesn't like. It's not like a transformation scene ever. It's just suddenly a dragon. So I mean, if you don't necessarily know, like, that this is supposed to be like New Japan, or that this isn't what New Japan always looked like. I mean, they don't even really mention it either.
It's true. They just kind of give a bit of a, let's see here.
It's just like, what are you doing? Whatever it takes.
Yeah, and then just before him going, no. I don't know. I just think it's kind of a cool visual. Though I do wonder about like the gravity and stuff. Like for the people on the country.
Well, I mean, we've all kind of realized that father doesn't give a fuck, does he?
Oh yeah, no, it's not about like, oh no, those poor people. It's more about, okay, should everyone be tumbling about, or is it only sort of like an earthquake? Again, not that it like matters.
You know what? There's someone who slept through this entire ordeal. How much you want to bet? There's some guy who had a late night, had a couple of hookers, is just sleeping. It's Ninjak. It's just Ninjak. old Ninjak just sleeping in one of the high houses there, and he just slept through the whole thing. He's gonna wake up and suddenly be on Earth again. He's like, "Oh, what happened, mates?" Right? Nope, that's more Australian than British. Whatever.
I know what you mean.
Put another shrimp on the Barbie for me.
They really like their Barbie dolls.
Yeah, they do. Like dressing their Barbie dolls in shrimp. Oh my god, is that a euphemism for sex?
I don't know. I'm just seeing it something as kind of cute little Australia. Well, not really little Australian girls, but like grown Australian men, like just putting shrimps on their Barbies. Someone must have drawn that or done a picture, I'm sure.
Probably.
But yeah, no, it's again, this was that year's crossover event. I mean, in this case, it's not really so much 4001 AD as it is Rai Volume 4. I mean, same artist, same writer, and continuing the story directly. But I mean, again, we'll get to the end in terms of the epic conclusion, but again, this is the big, the final act of the movie we've been talking about.
Yes. And that's why I don't think it can stand alone.
How so?
It was boring.
This whole volume?
Yes. It was just a huge fight scene. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to look at this whole arc here as a three act structure, this volume was the third act. And yes, it is here to pay us off. Like, it pays off everything that we've been building up so far. But I feel like the problem with this was just that it was too much action, too much fighting that was going on, and also too much text, which is kind of weird to say like that, but it's just one of those things where it feels like something was missing, some sort of... Because I was trying to think when I was reading this, why am I not enjoying it? And okay, it could have been multiple reasons, right? It could have been the fact that they used a text, like a font that my e-reader couldn't interpret properly, so it only showed it to me in chunks. So I had to keep on zooming in and out to read text that was written by a father, or that was spoken by father. And he spent most of the time talking in this issue or in these volumes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was that, or if you had overhyped it for me, which you have done in the past quite often for other mediums as well, or if it was just that because I can't remember exactly what it was about Rai that I loved. Maybe it was the world building. Maybe it was the interesting little aspects about New Japan because we could be inside it. Now, literally, New Japan has just become a monstrosity. There's nothing interesting about it anymore other than it's just a big villain. We don't really spend that much time inside it except for during the scenes with Lula. And those are only like, what, 3 or 4 pages where she meets her parents real quick and then they just get fridged. It's crazy. Like, I don't know. So that's what I was feeling. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Rai, but there you have it.
Oh, all right. That's interesting because I was expecting you to like this a lot since you were very excited about all the other Rise, and because this was the big climax, I thought like yes, this is like the thing it's all been leading up to.
Right, but the climax is just too long. It's just this climax is just an entire volume as a climax. It's just, I mean, because you and I we've been talking about this fact that we like it when volumes follow the 3-act structure pretty clearly. I mean, we can see it often that the first issue is usually the act 1, and you have 2 and 3 are act 2, and then you have issue 4, which is then act 3, and often it does follow that structure within a bigger story then. But I feel with Rai and then subsequently 4001 AD, they were building to a much bigger conclusion, and because of that, this volume just kind of felt, kind of lackluster because it was just too much like just action-y stuff going on.
Well, the way you're describing that, then would it be better seen that Rai Volume 1 is the first act, then 2 and 3 is the second, and then this is the third? And do you think maybe if we read them all, I mean, it's quite a bit to read in one chunk. If we were to read them like that as one full story, and then finishing up with this volume, do you think it would have felt a little better then? Because then you're not seeing it as just one whole story that's just a big fight. It's like one big finale to all the other cool stuff that happened.
I don't know. I mean, I still feel like it would have been a long thing. I mean, if you look at, I'm not entirely sure how Rai Volume 1, 2, and 3, like what parts were in what, volume. But if I remember correctly, it did feel at least like each Rai volume had its own story within it. And while they did have a general overarching story from Rai Volume 1 until 4001 AD, the 3 Rais did have their own thing. I mean, when he met the Eternal Warrior, when he just kind of started, questioning his own existence, that kind of stuff in the first one, that made it more interesting then because we had good pacing within each volume, something that we don't necessarily have right here because it just feels like suddenly we're going to stretch a 3rd act over an entire volume instead of telling you a normal 3-act structure story over the course of 4 issues. I mean, we can break it down. I just don't feel like we really have a 3-act structure in this story, like in this volume.
No, but I understand what you mean, I think. I mean, with the first volume, it's very special in terms of it has to set everything up.
Yeah.
It has to sell you on this idea.
But we still have a story.
Yeah. And every subsequent volume, they've taken care of the hardest part in terms of, convincing us to suspend our disbelief and like enjoy this world.
Yeah.
And as you said, each one had its own. Well, it's kind of like we discussed sometimes with TV shows, like how I like it when each episode gets to be its own story.
Yeah.
Like you can still kind of like look back at this specific episode rather than just seeing it as a smaller piece of something bigger. But then you can still have, this overarching story, which makes it feel like it's more important. Like, oh yeah, I really love that episode because of the main story. But then also to continue the overarching one. So I can see what you mean here, where this for me just feels like a big finale. But yeah, on its own, as you said, like I mean, if some person just picked this up on its own, they obviously wouldn't know what's going on.
Yeah, especially seeing that this is supposed to be some sort of crossover event where I think like a lot more people would be picking it up. And I don't know if this was if it was meant to start off the crossover event or if this was like kind of shoehorned in at the end. But I feel like the whole explanation of who Rai is and
With the calligraphy in the beginning.
yeah, that felt like very much like, oh, we have to explain it to the people who are going to pick up this event because it's an event comic and have no idea who Rai is or the story that we were just told. And we can't expect everyone to go buy 3 volumes of a story that they don't want to read necessarily just to be part of the event. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know how the next volume is going to be or the next part of this crossover. If it can just talks about the other characters in 4001 AD, but I feel like this would have been better. Like if I was a consumer and a consumer in that sense that I was just picking this up off the comic book shelf, I would be more happy if this was Rai Volume 4 than 4001 AD because again, I just don't have a connection to this if I'm picking it up as a first time reader.
No, that's a good point because again, it is the fact that they not that they rebranded it, but decided to continue the main Rai story as its own book.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, if we compare to Armor Hunters, where we have the Armor Hunter book, but then the Exo Manowar comic, the seeds to Armor Hunters started in Exo Manowar, of course. But like before Armor Hunters came, it was the whole thing about Amalgam, like in space, and Exo fighting him, and that was kind of like the setup for like there's an event coming.
Right.
And then the actual Exo Manowar series was then the prequel. Actually, we got to see the
Right.
story of Amalgam and I can't remember their names now, but yeah, the Armor Hunters.
Yeah.
And then the story itself was told. I mean, I'm not gonna be. I don't want to spoil in that sense, but it's actually kind of similar here. I'd say. I think you might like Rai Volume 4 a little bit more in terms of it just being more interesting rather than just a huge, fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that the problem that I have with this as well is that with the Armor Hunters thing, they were sowing seeds in the story, stuff that you didn't necessarily need to know in order to follow the Armor Hunters story arc. And I feel like, and I'm assuming that 4001 AD, the next one that we're reading, I don't know what the next one is called. Is that
Rai Volume 4. I mean, I'll say it at the end of the episode as usual. But...
Oh, okay, so it is Rai Volume 4. Okay. Well, that kind of then I'm kind of worried now a little bit because I was assuming that we would just kind of catch up with a lot of I mean, I guess it doesn't really make sense how you can get the other characters that we already know into this time. Because I don't know, why would you make a crossover like this if you can't necessarily get all the characters that we know into this? I mean, I'm pretty sure they found a way if they did use it.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to give a quick, I'm not going to tell what happens in the Rai Volume 4, but it's a prequel, and each chapter there talks about one of the previous Rais.
Oh, okay.
So it's like really far back, but it helps kind of illustrate how New Japan has like evolved over the years, like over the millennium.
But then it's not really a crossover event, is it?
No, not in the immediate sense like the other ones have been, where oh wow, this story, this is explaining what happened concurrently with the main story.
So it's just an event, not a crossover.
I suppose you're right. I mean, I guess say crossover because the books are like there's more books about it, but I guess event sounds better, I guess.
Oh wait, so we have 4001 AD Exo Manowar, 4001 AD Shadow Man, 4001 AD Bloodshot, and then 4001 AD Classified.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I mean it's been revealed since then what it is, but it's a new character.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think they've had many books yet, but
okay. Well, it says here the summer of 4001 AD. Is it Britannia?
No.
Of course not. Why would it be?
No, but it's related to 4001 AD, which I like because
yeah.
I wanted to expand that part of Valiant as well.
Well, but that makes sense then. I mean, to have those characters. I mean, I can see that Shadow Man and Bloodshot and Exo Manowar could make it in 4001 AD, or make it 2 4001. So I'm totally okay with having them in there. And this is what I would expect from a crossover event, or just an event anyway, is to have these characters in this time. And I just feel like, but then again, you know what? We're reading this the wrong way. You know, what we should be doing, we should be reading, if we're doing these crossover events, we should be doing them in the way that they were published. By basically, here it says May is 4001 AD number 1, then 4001 AD Exo Manowar number 1, then Rye number 13. That's what we should be reading. And then we should go on to the next month in June and read 4001 AD number 2, then Bloodshot, and then Rye number 14.
Well, that is something we have discussed a few times, like way back, I think, with Harbinger Wars.
Hmm.
Because it is a very different way of reading it, because I wish I did read most of these events. I don't think I've read any of the events properly like that, except for maybe Book of Death. And even then, it's not quite the same because it's like sort of separate.
Yeah.
Like it's not I mean, Armor Hunters would have been so cool to have read like properly. Because, just as you see like, oh no, that purple guy's going to fight Bloodshot. Oh, but here's the Bloodshot volume, or like the Bloodshot issue.
Right.
Oh, cool. Oh, it's this cliffhanger.
So I think it might actually be the smarter way to actually read these crossovers from now on.
It can just get a bit tricky with the format I have, though, in the sense of do I have the volumes or the separate issues?
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, we can always just read the volume and then just read one issue of that volume.
I suppose. For me, it just gets a bit, not frustrating, but just kind of like...
All right, well, why don't you listeners comment or whatever and let us know which way you'd like to hear this. Would you like us to read the episodes? Like, would you like us to put out episodes per month? Like in the sense of we read what came out each month in a crossover like this? I mean, obviously we're not going to do it now. Like, not by next episode. We're not going to then suddenly shift it. We're going to continue doing it like we're doing it now. But then if we come to another crossover, then maybe we can change it. Let us know. You can email us, tweet us, or follow us on Facebook.
Join us next time for...
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but that's an interesting topic with that. But on that subject, though, it might be a purposeful thing the way they're doing events right now. Because that's the whole thing, as we said, with the volumes of like Armor Hunters. It's a bit odd, like reading the Bloodshot volume, because it's just kind of like detached. It's kind of cool on its own, but it's also kind of like, it's kind of odd to read because you just hear all these mentions of what's happening in the main story. So I think they might want to try to have it be where you have the main story being told in one like series, and then have it be more supplemental with, rather than being, oh, it's concurrent or like it's parallel to the story. But more like, oh, this is a prequel, or this is something like totally different, but in the same like sort of setting or theme. Because that way they kind of stand as their own volumes. As I was saying, like with the Rye Volume 4, it's like a bunch of prequels. So you can read it on your own in that sense without necessarily thinking 4001 AD.
Right.
But as you said, it kind of defeats the idea of it being a crossover event. Though I guess I think it's just called them that by its own, as I said, like just calling things crossover events regardless of if characters are crossing over. I mean, the only one we kind of have, and that was already in the last volume, was Gilad. So no one else who isn't like a native to 4001 AD already.
Right.
Which is too bad in that sense. I mean, it would have been cool with what's called other immortals such as Bloodshot or Armstrong, what's called Ivar. Not necessarily that they all come in to help, but some kind of like, it just makes it then feel more as a crossover.
I mean, but they are kind of coming in, aren't they? Or are they just going to be around?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I haven't kept track of everything. But I think this like event, like this book and then the other ones, I think are the last Rye things to have come out. Like, I haven't kept track. Maybe there has been something more or something else taking place in 4001 AD. I mean, that would be very valiant of them to end it on a new kind of status quo, but then tell a different kind of like story within it. Like with Harbinger and Imperium. I know you don't like them, but it kind of keeps telling the story about from a different perspective. So it would be cool that rather than, Rye Volume 5, is, whatever new thing they would call it. Because now it's like, well, spoiler for the last issue in this volume, but now they're on Earth.
Spoiler.
But on the issue itself, because it's a lot, very sort of meta publishing stuff like right now that we've been discussing. But what do you think of like the exosuit?
It was a how do you say it? It's not a Deus Ex Machina, like not really, but kind of. It's getting there. It's kind of like, we need a way to defeat the New Japan father or whatever, and it's like, oh look, we have a suit. I don't know, it just felt kind of
Yeah, but it was kind of not necessarily hinted that it was a giant suit in the last volume. But the Gila did mention he already had like a plan. Like, follow me. I mean, so it's not like he just met and then said it.
But I mean, also it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of convenient that they come in with a huge suit, and then also New Japan can become a huge dragon. You know what I mean? Like, because if they would have walked into New Japan with that suit on, and just gone to fight the new Rai or father, that would have been no contest because it's like a huge suit, right? But I don't know. It just felt kind of weird. Like, oh, we've got this huge suit. Oh, cool, because we can change into a huge dinosaur or a huge dragon. It's like, great. Now we can have a huge fighting battle in space. I don't know. It just felt so convenient and so like, I don't know, weird somehow.
Nah, I can understand that. Issue 2. Rai and company continue fighting the now dragon mecha in space, and thinking they might have gotten an edge, it merely transforms further. Lula is traveling through the city trying to get to the Geomancer, when she somehow figures the giant robot attacking them is Rai. Rai himself manages to lodge himself into the mouth of the dragon, and the team enter New Japan. Lula meets the Geomancer and finds out that her companion is dead. She now has a cool eye patch, similar to how Spylock looked. Rai and team try to attack the Koro fodder, but he sends out shiny cats to both consume the Exo Manowar suit and attack the trio. I love Lemur. I hope nothing happens to him.
Yeah. He dies.
Oh. I mean, I will discuss it in issue 3, but oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I'm sorry I kind of rushed issue 1 now at the end there because there's not much to say in issue 2.
No, I mean, as you said, it's just one long, like, extended fight scene with a few breaks, but it's still the same fight.
Also, I think it's interesting that they need 3 people to control the exosuit.
Well, it is bigger. They have to go, like, Super Sentai on it.
Super Sentai. I was going to say Pacific Rim, but, you never watched that movie, did you?
Yes. Well, no, not the second one, no. I was going to, but then no one else wanted to, and they didn't want to go alone.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I mean, at the moment, I might be missing what's called a Deadpool if I can't get someone to watch it.
Oh, no.
That's just tricky because I missed it that one day because I had to work. So it's kind of like, oh.
Hey, there's this brand new concept out there. I don't know if you heard about this. Tell me if you did. It's called going to the movies alone.
Like a loser?
Humphrey, you are a loser.
I've only done that in Toronto because I truly was alone there because all my coworkers had families.
Oh, pobrecito.
No, I mean, it makes sense, but still it was odd to kind of... I mean, I'm not, you know me, I'm not the most like outgoing party guy or anything.
Understatement of the century.
But, I kind of like, well, I'm here. It's, kind of be nice to hang out with some people too. And there were a few pubs I went to, so with some coworkers.
And then when they found out that you didn't drink, they were like, ugh, well, you're one of these guys?
Yep.
Go into the corner and sip your cola.
So my virgin rum and coke.
My virgin diet rum and coke.
Oh, no, I don't. No. I want some vice in there. Sugar. No, but the whole thing there is, I did ask once if someone wanted to follow me at this like board game cafe, which was really cozy. I visited it just kind of like because I was curious. But you can't really go alone to a board game cafe.
I'm pretty sure everyone at a board game cafe is also alone.
So yeah, but you go there with other people. Like if I go there alone, and it's like I don't think I can expect the people working there
Yes,
to play with
dude.
me.
I'm sure people who are super into board games, and I'm sorry because I know some of our fans are into board games, are are totally not understandable about someone being alone. I mean, I think if you would have come in there and be like, "Hey guys, I'm interested in board games, but I don't have any friends," they'd be like, "Oh, come and sit down." What, do you really think that they'd look at you and be like, "Oh man, what a loser. Go get some friends, man." Anyway, I'm pretty sure you would manage to go watch Deadpool alone if you really wanted to.
Oh no, certainly.
Or you can be like me and just not watch any movies anymore.
No, but I do want to watch movies. It's fun. So I like spending money on things.
Hmm.
So by the way, guys, a Solo, not terrible. No, honestly, best one of the new Disney Star Wars movies.
Right. Speaking of Disney Star Wars movies, you see what happened to the actress who played the...
Yeah, poor Rose Tico.
Yeah. Jesus. What a shitty fan base. Thank God that something like that doesn't happen in Valiant.
So as long as we keep it small as it is.
Yeah.
that's the thing. The moment it gets too big,
we don't attract the assholes yet.
Well, it's not big enough for assholes to be interested in. Like you want to go somewhere where you can make an impact.
Yeah, of course.
If it's small, like I mean, someone were to come in here and be all like pissed off that I don't know. I'm trying to think of something they've done. Well, getting pissed off at that faith exists. It's kind of like, well, okay, all 20 of us are really upset at you right now.
Yeah, right.
It's just, I'm just really seeing it like a group of 20 people and then this one asshole. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, one thing I was thinking though, now that you mentioned the whole thing, that this was just one big like fight scene, like the whole volume. Do you think it would have benefited then from having more of a, how do you call it? Not a cold open, but if the first two issues were a bit more calm, like if there was something else happening, like I can't really think of what, like an alternative.
Well, I mean, what about a heist thing? But then again, they kind of did that last time where they tried to destroy Father from within.
That's true.
You know, I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if Rai and his group didn't go in guns a-blazing and kind of try to do more of a stealthy thing to get to his core or something like that? Maybe that would have been more interesting. I don't know. But I'm not entirely sure if that would have helped, because I mean, it's the same thing with Avengers, the new Avengers. I also wasn't too fond of that movie. I actually didn't really enjoy it that much, just because it also felt like just a huge third act. It was just one huge fight. I mean, I know it wasn't one huge fight. I'm not literally like in this volume, but it did just feel so exhaustive because it was just constant fighting and very little story.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a fair comparison.
The interesting thing I feel about 4001 AD or Rai is the location. Rai in itself is not that interesting.
Yeah, he's just a sword guy. Yeah.
He's just a guardian of a city or a town or a world, whatever you want to call it.
Country.
Right. And I feel like he's fine as kind of the chauffeur of the story. But I don't, he's not interesting enough to have him as a fight. And even here, like Lemur is more interesting than Rai. I mean, in some sense, he has like I don't know why, but it just feels like, I mean, even the Eternal Warrior, he doesn't even do that much in this at all. I mean, he's just an extra hand to fight. So I feel like it would have just been much more interesting if they would have spent some more time in New Japan. I mean, again, in this entire volume, we saw maybe like what, 4 or 5 pages inside New Japan, really, without considering the time when, you know, Lula is flying through it. It would just be fun to kind of see them interact more with the world, because I think that is what is really interesting.
No, I see what you mean, because again, it starts off with the whole Turok reference.
Yeah.
So, which again is also a cool idea. You know, I mean, it showcases both the technology of this place, that they can, you know, home grow dinosaurs, and then the decadence of like, oh, why do we, you know, raise these dinosaurs? Well, so we can hunt them. Which is getting, you know, like just a cool concept, and also, yes, as I said, this sign of this decadence in this country. So, but yeah, that just quickly lost because everything's destroyed, like everything's falling apart, literally.
Right.
So it's not really much you can do in the locations, and the locations we do see is more of the generic sort of sci-fi spots. But I do like how you mentioned with Rai being the chauffeur. There's a lot of like series and stories that work like that, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lucky Luke, I definitely agree is like a chauffeur comic or like a character.
Right.
Because he himself is not that interesting. I mean, he's fine, he's kind of cool, but you don't really read this albums because, oh, I really wonder, what Lucky Luke's gonna do. It's more like, oh, okay, so this one's taking place during a gold rush, and oh, this one he's getting caught up in this thing here. It's the scenario, and he's simply
Right.
like the vehicle to take you to these places. Like his whole character setup is made for that too. I mean, that's why every issue ends with him, leaving against the sunset. So it's actually kind of also. Did you ever see Fury Road?
Nope.
So I felt the Mad Max, like the character Mad Max, felt like a chauffeur character there too, and not just because he was driving.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But it was like he kind of like walked in on someone else's story, but he kind of walked in on someone else's story, like without it being like intruding. You know what I mean? Because yeah, you haven't seen the film, but basically he has no reason to be where he is.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets captured and then kind of gets roped up into this other plot. And he has some form of a arc. It's not really so much his arc. It's about these other characters. And I think it works really well. And I wish I could see a little bit more of that in certain like franchise movies, because it's very hard to keep the same character interesting if they're constantly like moving through with their arc. Like if you take someone like Iron Man, for example, he changes a lot for every film, which is great. He's growing up. He's both learning to be a better person and all that, and his relationships with all these characters change. But it's hard to kind of make another Iron Man film after this one, so to speak, without it just feeling like lower stakes or retreading old ground.
Mm.
But if we were telling adventures more about, where he has to solve other people's problems.
Right, as like the guardian of New Japan.
Exactly. Yeah, so I went on a real long, slow talking rant there. Well, not even a rant, but.
I mean, I do that like almost all the time. When you ask the question, so what did you think about this comic? I'm like, I didn't think about much of it. And then go into a 10 or 15 minute monologue about what I felt about this comic.
What you didn't feel about this comic.
Right.
So, but that's the thing. It is, but also something we've discussed a lot with a lot of the volumes we read, like in general with Valiant. How a lot of times one of the middle issues will feel kind of superfluous, like it's just a fight in that one.
Yeah.
Like with first issue, fine, the setup, and then either second or third will be sort of like, okay, this kind of felt like it could have been done with half the pages, maybe less. Because in the end, it was just one big fight to reveal that this is this character or this is where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the last Rye volume, that whole thing with him meeting up with the axe head.
Oh yeah.
And the Amazons, like, sure, it was kind of fun, interesting, callback to an earlier character. But in the end, all it did was tell him to go a different direction.
Right. This episode is sponsored in part by paper. Isn't paper great? Real paper, that is. Right on the same type of paper that Lula wrote the story of Father's downfall. Make your story special with paper.
Are you bored? Need some excitement? Why not come over to the prehistoric sector of your very own New Japan and take part in a genuine dinosaur hunt? With our trained guides, you're sure to bring home a trophy to impress the missus. Prehistoric sector, where the past never passed by.
Hunting is actually really stupid. Don't hunt.
So I'm not sure they're really real dinosaurs or, if they have souls or anything, because they're just kind of like genetical experiments.
I just don't want to send the message to our listeners, Humphrey, that hunting is cool. Hunting is not cool.
But if they're dinosaurs, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, but issue 3. The fight continues. All right, so I'm joking. The fight continues. Lula meets up with the Geomancer and they go on their way to find a way to defeat Father. They come to a door that seals in all that Father has imprisoned. The two open it just in the nick of time as Rai and his group are about to be killed by the robot army. Lula and the Geomancer drop in with loads of Father-hating imprisoned, and the upper hand in the fight shifts. Rai decides to confront Father himself, even if it means sacrificing himself. They talk, then they fight. Then Lemur interrupts and dies, but gives Rai an opportunity to kill the new Rai or Father, whatever. Rai wonders if what he did was the right thing, as now New Japan could be in danger.
Not Lemur!
Yes, Lemur.
Honestly, due to the fact that so many other people, like, you have all the civilians dying in the background.
Right.
But the fact there was only one named character who died in all of this.
Yeah, but that's the typical thing, isn't it? You know, look about like the Man of Steel. How many people died in New York or in Metropolis, and then everyone just cares about the one death there. I mean, obviously not everyone cares because there was a huge. People hated the fact that the movie was so whatever, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, suddenly it was that one family that he could stop from the I-beams that was then the problem.
Yeah, which is a critique I definitely agree with. Even at the time I first saw it, was a bit like, wait, what?
But the opinion of Hardcast is that Man of Steel is actually a pretty decent movie.
Exactly.
Should we have one of those like Hardcast approves kind of thing where both of us, like, for example, you know, my stance and your stance is the same, so Hardcast approves.
Yes, a little stamp of approval.
Little stamp of approval on Hardcast.
The logo.
Yeah, so named characters, right. But that's a typical convention that you have all these, you know, people die in the background and no one gives a shit, but then, you know, the companion dies and it's just like, no. So
it was such a brutal one too. Like, it wasn't just the one zap or anything. It's like some kind
smack.
Yeah, but like a disintegrating slap, or is it just the art that kind of?
Yeah, I guess.
Because you see like all these, or is that just supposed to be stylized blood?
No, I think it is some sort of digitalness. Also, what a pussy to get sliced up with one slice. The Father here, the new Rai, it just, because like, I don't know, it just feels so weak to. I mean, this is also something that I don't really. This is one thing I like about Dragon Ball. When the fight happens, it's a real fight. I mean, yes, the fight takes like 20 episodes. No, I'm serious. I mean, but it feels, I know. It feels right, you know? But I feel like with a lot of these comics, the boss battle, the big fight, then ends up just with like one sword slash. You know what I mean? Like I mean, if you look at this whole thing, like, you know, Rai had like a lot of trouble with this guy last issue or last volume. And now he just totally has the upper hand. It's just like, wait, what happened? Like, Rai didn't go Super Saiyan. He didn't do any training in the back there. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that he got somehow better. And I don't know. I mean, it just feels so weird that he can then defeat him by literally slicing him 3 times and then once just slicing him in half.
It's through the power of emotion.
Right.
No, but I do agree with that. And that's something I've seen discussed a lot in like comic circles. About how like manga artists tend to in general be better at action than American or Western artists.
Yeah.
Well, comic book artists specifically. Like, it's not so much like, obviously Western artists can draw, you know, design, the anatomy and all that. But in terms of actual comic, like fighting, it always comes across more, and I think we've discussed this before in some volume, but it always feels a bit like the fight is more of a quote-unquote metaphorical fight. Like, what was the one we read at some point where it was Divinity 2, where, you know, you have them fighting, but it's not really important that they're fighting. It's the important thing is that they're talking. You know, they're both like spouting their, you know, ideologies and, you know, their beliefs at each other.
Yeah.
And then they just so happen to be fighting and allowing for some cool, you know, imagery. But if you then take like Dragon Ball, as you were talking about, if you actually look at the original mangas there, like you actually get good detail of what they're doing. Like they'll have 3 pages with little to no dialogue where they just really show what the character's like doing action wise. You know, like you'll see Vegeta just dodging out away from some laser blast.
Mm.
Then a very specific panel to show him like, you know, flying towards the enemy. Little beat panel of him like stopping right in front of him and the guy looking freaked out. You know, then a big panel of him like punching through his stomach. But it's really there to you can really appreciate the action. But the equivalent then in if you had like an American Dragon Ball, not referring to that the movie, but you know if we were to have like if someone were to take like the core of like Dragon Ball and then make their own like comic version of it, like the Frieza saga, like the Frieza battle between Goku and the Frieza.
Yeah.
Like I can see that happening then, like you know you'll have them talking and they'll be fighting while they're talking rather than pausing while talking and then being quiet when they fight.
Right.
And assuming then, you know, they won't like drag it out due to the whole, you know, catching up with the manga stuff. It would really be just that one thing that he does that does defeat him, rather than having a lot of close calls.
But even then, I mean, obviously, I mean, it is understandable why they do it low, right? Because they don't have that much real estate.
Mm.
You know, in a show, like in a TV show, in a movie, all this kind of stuff, you can show a punch within a second. You know, you have so much real estate for that. You can show a nice action scene. You can do like a 3-minute, 5-minute action scene, and it's fine. It doesn't take too much time. But if you're doing an action scene in a comic, you would have to go maybe like 3 or 4 pages for a comic, and you can't push the story more. And that's what, like a sixth of your real estate basically for an issue. And I can understand that too, because then obviously then people will have the same complaint as many do about Dragon Ball, is that the story doesn't progress. You're just constantly fighting. And I understand that too. So I mean, yeah, yes, I'm pretty sure that the geniuses who are working in the comics industry are much smarter than you and I, and they've obviously had the same kind of thoughts. And I'm pretty sure that they just realized that this is the best way of doing it in comics, is to have the build up there and then basically defeat the boss in 1 or 2 quick sequences.
Well, like I was saying, it's that emotional like
Yeah.
beat.
Yeah.
Like they were basically fighting when they were talking, and then Ride basically gets the what would you say, like the moral high ground.
Yeah.
And that's basically like the sword defeat is just both spectacle and hammering the point. But he had already once already, you could say.
Right.
So, but it's something that's all been discussed. I mean, it's been discussed since Understanding Comics. So by Scott McCloud. I mean, one of the points he mentions there is just the way they're told, in the sense of, you know, this long continuing story. And even though they do kind of try to theme the volume sometimes, or at least not have too much like crossover between them, you know, so you can at least be like, okay, the first volume of Naruto focuses on this like story portion.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it continues directly into second volume 2, but then that has also its own kind of identity. But even then, there they'd have like what 6, 7 issues of each like sort of 22 pages or something. So that's plenty of space to at least have a few cool fights, you know, before like it get continuing story.
Right.
So honestly, yes. I mean, it might be just because it's, you know, what's called Rise like Japanese and all that. But it could be cool if they did try like hiring an actual mangaka to do like 1 volume or something.
Right. Yeah.
Like kind of giving them like free reign, you know, kind of like, yeah, you know, here's the character, here's like the designs.
Kind of like the Batman anime or the Batman manga.
Right. Yeah. The Bat manga.
Did you see that Batman Ninja thing?
No, not yet. I think it's on Netflix here.
It's on Netflix?
I think, unless I'm mixing it up with something else.
Oh, man.
So there's a lot of Batman-like stuff on Netflix here.
Oh, man.
It is on YouTube here, at least, like for sale.
Yeah, it's on sale on Amazon for us. I was thinking about getting it when you come down.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about it.
If you ever come down.
Soon, Chris.
Yeah. You always say soon, but then...
There's actually another... Like, I felt kind of bad when I said August.
Oh, come on, man. Really?
Yeah, no, it's not so much about... It's not about the current work, but I did come across another job.
You know from this podcast how much I hate the word soon.
It's like a parent, so can I get that thing? Maybe. We'll see. That always means no.
Yeah. I'm not even expecting my bestest friend to come visit me.
Soon.
Don't toy with my emotions, Humphrey.
Oh, like this comic did with me? Lemur.
Ah.
But then on another note then on something actually regarding the comic.
Right.
The big splash page with all the freed prisoners. So any thoughts on like who's been released here? Like, what they're showcasing?
No, I didn't notice anyone.
Well, we got... I'm assuming...
No, dude, I was joking, of course. Jesus Christ, yes, of course. There's loads of people. There's a new fucking hardcast called War Corp. A hardcore called War Corp. Then there's freaking Spider-Man with his arms. And then there's that robot thing that is Sunlight part of the... Huh?
Sunlight on Snow.
Sunlight on Snow, that's the one. I mean, yeah. Who's Spider-Man?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming it might have been one of those similar guys, like that character who was in the previous volumes.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't quite clear, like, okay, so were they Vine or...
Right.
Or a new species that we come across?
So what's the War Core and why are they so hot?
I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's something that's from the old stuff or if it's something new for the reboot. But based on the designs and all that, I'm assuming they... Again, I don't know. I'm kind of curious how their powers would work, if it's the same as it was in the past.
Well, but they did say dial in.
They did say dial in.
Yeah, they say dial in War Corps.
Right.
On the next page.
Yes, I see that now.
Yeah.
So, but my one issue with that is just if it's the same.
Oh my God! Could you imagine if they're like running into battle and then they're like dial in War Corps? Dee doom dee doom dee doom dee doom dee.
For our younger listeners, that's what it sounded like going online.
Yeah. Back in the AOL days, you've got mail.
I always saw that reference, and I never got it since I was never an American.
Oh, you never had AOL?
No, I mean, I got it once because that's a lot of Americans insisted on it when I lived in the States.
Well, yeah, because you would have AIM.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just made one to appease my friends because they, for some reason, refused to have MSN. Oh, MSN.
Did you ever have ICQ?
No, don't you know what that is?
Oh, you don't? That was a very German thing. I remember when I was in England, that's when the whole chatting thing started. So I had a Yahoo Messenger and an MSN. And then when I came to Germany, everyone had an ICQ, which was the weirdest thing.
All right. No, I never heard of that.
And you didn't have screen names. You had a number, which was so stupid. Yeah, it was like a 6-digit or something like that number.
So we can only have so many people.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, maybe it then went, I can't remember. But then like all these German people that I would meet, they were like, so what's your ICQ number? I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. I have it written down somewhere maybe. And then I was like, why, what's yours? And they're just like, oh yeah, here's mine. I'm like, how do you remember this shit? Just follow me on MSN, here's my email address. Anyway, I had You've Got Mail for a while on my phone as like my mail thing. And then I also had the thing with Arrowhead. Message for you, sir. I've never watched Monty Python in my life, to that point, but I still had that as my thing. My dad was really big in putting more like new sounds into the computer. So he would, you know what I mean? Like, remember like in the 90s, you would like change the system sounds to the sounds of your own.
You can still do that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can still do that, but it's not as popular anymore. But my dad would like do all this stuff. So he would have, instead of the male sound, it would be that message for you, sir, from Monty Python.
Oh, did you say he also... No, go on.
No, but then another one was like when the warning thing happened. Like,
yes.
It said, I try to think, but nothing happens.
Oh, wasn't it the Hal thing?
Oh, he did that once. Yeah, he did that, but then my mom got freaked out. Like she didn't know that my dad did that, and then yeah, she did something, and then some sort of warning came up, like a typical Windows warning, and I said, "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." And then my mom just freaked out and it's like, dog. Yeah.
I mean, I just didn't like that message anyways, because it said you had performed an illegal operation.
Oh.
And I always, because I didn't understand that illegal just meant, you couldn't do it. So when I was a kid, I thought it was an actual like, oh crap.
Oh crap.
Dad, I'm sorry, I'm a criminal now.
Am I gonna go to jail, Dad?
Yes, son. For all those movies and music you download.
Yeah.
But my point though, regarding the War Corps, I'm just curious how their powers work here then. Because if they were prisoners, do they like still hook up to like a Wi-Fi, or can they do it themselves?
God damn it, the Wi-Fi's down again. All right, well, let's plug it in, plug it out, plug it out, plug it in.
Oh God, I have a terrible data plan.
Right. God, I used up all my minutes. Oh God, there must be. I mean, see, this is the problem. If Valiant was more popular, or as popular as like DC or Marvel, all of these jokes would have been made already. We would have already been like, there would be some sort of like, one of those weekly comic strip, like webcomic things that make fun of pop culture, that would have done something about hardcore not having a Wi-Fi signal. There would have been something like that. And I'm so sad that doesn't exist in the world. That there's such a small group of people who would have to like take on that burden, and even then no one would appreciate the joke because everyone's like, what the fuck is a hardcore?
Exactly. So like, even if we try to, unless it's something like very general, the meme, like people will appreciate it just because, oh yeah, that's kind of funny, regardless of the drawing and stuff like that.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yeah,
there's not enough people who will be like, you can do anything with Batman, and people will be like, haha, Batman.
Right. Little happen.
The liver rag.
Does that mean leather wings?
No, it's what's called wing is vinge.
Oh, okay.
So lap is kind of like both piece of paper and like cloth, so like the leather cloth. So, but I guess it's because direct translation would be fladdermusmannen.
Yeah.
The Fledermaus.
I don't know how they translated it in Finnish.
Yeah, I'm sure they had published it there at some point, right?
Yeah. But I'm thinking if it would be lepakomies or...
Maybe they just do it differently, because didn't you say that the Phantom was called Black Mask or something?
Yeah, okay, so it says lepakomies. Yeah, so I was right. Batman. Lepakomies. So literally Batman.
Oh, that's nice.
But again, this is like the time when, Green Lantern was called Die Grüne Leuchte in German. And now it's just Green Lantern.
Well, yes, it just works better because that's like the branding.
Yeah, exactly.
Though I didn't mind Spider-Man being Hombre Araña in Spanish.
Hombre Araña.
Yeah, but it didn't quite. I don't know. I felt it kind of hit the syllables right.
Hey. Hombre Araña. ¿Qué pasa?
Well, it's better than the Danish one. I've seen some, like, we had an old comic shop here once in Viborg.
Yeah.
And they had like some old like Danish Spider-Man. And there he's just basically called the Spider, but the Danish, which is Ederkoppen.
Finnish would be Hämähäkkimies.
Well.
Anyway. And Eternal Warrior would be Ikuinen Soturi.
Oh, that sounds kind of Japanese almost.
And that is not at all the title of the comic that I've been working on.
That's been a while.
Ikuinen Soturi. Yeah.
All right. Issue 4. Rai has a stern talking to his father, explaining why he is wrong while trading blows. We see the surviving colony ships land more or less safely on Earth, finally confronting nature for the first time in millennia. Everyone is happy now on Earth, with plenty of new adventures to come. Actually, I guess that was a wrong statement when I said trading blows. It was kind of one-sided. But that's the thing here, like, this is just such a cool new... I mean, this is a huge change in status quo.
Yeah.
And I really want to read more, and I hope I've just missed it somehow, but I need more of this world.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love again, that's what I mean. I love this world. I don't necessarily, again, as I said, I think Rai is a great chauffeur, but I honestly think someone like Lula and her story is actually more interesting than his. And I feel like if he is this kind of, it's kind of like the Superman idea that he needs to exist in the world, but not play a huge role.
Within the story.
Yeah, within the story. Yeah, of course.
No, but that's the thing. It's, again, there's a lot of characters like that. So that, and it works really well because it kind of helps make the character, you don't get tired of the character as much.
Mm.
And again, it's more of a vehicle. The Spirit is a perfect example of that. Will Eisner's The Spirit.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there was a sort of saga going on about him and his, crime crusades. But The Spirit was really just an excuse for Will Eisner to experiment with storytelling in comics. He just had him so he could have, because not so many people like anthologies.
What evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Yes. Shadow.
The Shadow knows. For those of you who don't know, that's a radio drama from the 1920s? Was it 20s? I can't remember.
I was actually listening to, or watching a guy who was really, praising The Shadow.
Mm.
And he had an interesting point about how radio was technically bigger than television.
Oh yeah.
In a sense of, because it took a long time before we could have our portable TVs and stuff, and the way we do now with our smartphones and tablets. But people had their their radio cars, and
yeah.
So
it's called car radio.
Oh, true. A radio car would be a car. Let's call it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. No. But it was just very interesting the way he was describing it. So to have something like The Shadow, which was the most listened to radio show.
Yeah.
Like the guy's really eccentric, but he'll be like, you cannot understate the hugeness that was The Shadow. So, and it was just kind of I guess I really liked that. I was like, oh, that's true. But you had something to say?
No, just because the car radio car thing, there's this argument that my girlfriend and I get into quite often, and I would like you and our listeners to kind of bring this to an end. If there's a hurdle, you know what a hurdle is? Like the running little, like the running thing where you jump over. If there's a hurdle on a turtle, would it be a turtle hurdle or a hurdle turtle?
All right, well,
So tweet at me, #hurdle turtle or #turtle hurdle.
I think I'll have to say hurdle turtle.
No, why is it a hurdle turtle?
Because I feel, at least the way you described it, it sounds more like it's a turtle with a hurdle on top of it.
Right.
Which to me makes it more an impression that the turtle is the key thing.
No. The hurdle is the key thing, but because it's on a turtle. Because if it was a turtle hurdle, then the hurdle is the turtle.
I don't know. That's no.
Because if you say turtle hurdle, that means that the turtle is the hurdle. But if you hurdle turtle, then it's a hurdle that's on a turtle. So she says that it's a turtle hurdle, but I'm like, no, it's a hurdle turtle. Okay, anyway, so #hurdle turtle, #turtle hurdle. Tweet at me so that we can finally put this argument to rest. Anyway, is there anything more that you want to say about Rai or the 4001 AD? It was good. I liked it. Kind of. It was just a little bit too exhaustive because it was this very long third act. But it's setting up something nice. I gotta say, it's setting up something nice. I really like this idea. I mean, we did not talk a lot about Sunshine on Snow or whatever his name is, and all these guys. But that last shot,
them all standing there with hands on their hips.
This looks like the ending of a film where it's like the sequel's coming. And honestly, if Rai was not referenced from a swimmer, I don't know what.
Well, now that you say it, yeah.
Because of the long pants that he has on, that is literally what a swimmer looks like at a starting block, like before he gets on the block.
I guess Clayton Crane just looked up
Michael Phelps.
hot topless guy. Got a swimmer.
Yeah, that's how that works. So now we're officially in 4002 AD, and our journey begins.
That too is just kind of fun to actually have it be 4002.
You know, what if you just never found it because you kept on looking for 4001?
Crap, yes.
Yeah, you should have looked for 4002, man. Then you would have found it.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, again, it's just such a big open world now.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it is all of Earth.
Yeah, but technically, in a sense, well, I guess it is bigger than New Japan ever was. I was thinking more like space because that's even bigger. But they never went into space; they were just on their little planet thing.
Well, they would take, yeah, okay.
But the only, I'm not gonna say an issue in that sense, because the sky's the limit in terms of what they could do now. But there isn't this like they succeeded. This is a happy ending,
right?
So anything now has to be very interesting in terms of, okay, so now what? Like, are they gonna face off against some old immortal villains? Are we gonna have Are we gonna have like Master Dark appear?
No, it's gonna be like the Death Squad thing again, right?
Death Squad.
What Death Squad? What are they called? The Death Clan?
Oh, the Shadowmen?
Are they called the Shadowmen, or are they just the Death Clan?
Oh, you mean the ones from like the prequel from thing with?
Yeah, from like the Eternal Warrior thing, like the King thing.
Yeah, and the Nurgle
the
thing.
Eternal Emperor.
Oh, the Immortal Enemy.
No, the Eternal Emperor. The
Yeah,
what was that volume called? Where it was in the future in 4001?
Yeah, the Death Cult thing, yeah.
Yeah, Death Cult, that's the one, Death Cult.
Well, that's true. Yeah, all of those things are still present. And and heck, I mean, we don't really know what happened to that girl who he kind of worried about. Like the girl he was like following with him throughout that volume.
Yeah, his like daughter or granddaughter or something.
Yeah, but it seemed like she might be not necessarily that she's evil, but she had a penchant for machinery.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me if she kind of like grew away from Gilad and like, no, Gilad, you were wrong. Technology can help people.
Right.
But then she still created weapons and whatnot. That's what I mean. Like, there is no like hook right now.
Yeah.
There's no like, and they lived happily ever after, or did they? Like there's no like.
It's not like you see Father's hand just go out of the rubble at some point.
Exactly, like or some shadowy figure looking at them from afar.
Good, all according to plan.
Oh God, that'd be the worst.
Right.
I mean, it's been a while since Young Justice, but Young Justice ruined that for me. Like, it was so cool in the beginning, but then eventually it was just, God damn it, can the kids, go and piss without it helping the bad guys?
Right.
Good, the more they piss, the more they fill the tanks, and the more this...
And the more I'll have to pour on them.
How ironic that their piss will be pissed upon them. No, but that's the thing. It's like, it's cool. I like the idea that, because it makes the villains cooler. But eventually you just get like, oh, come on.
Right. All right, so closing arguments.
Well, in terms of, green light in terms of reading it. Like, I'm assuming if you're reading this, you have read the other volumes. But if you were in sort of that scenario that you were discussing, and someone who just wanted to found out about this event, I don't know. I mean, maybe a yellow light for that.
Right. That's what I was gonna say.
Like if you think it's cool and want to get into it later, like
Because I'm actually assuming that more people read this that had no idea about Rye, because an event would probably be advertised, and so you'd pick it up and be like, oh well, let me check it out then. Or maybe you wouldn't like check it out like that. You'd leaf through it in the comic book store and be like, oh, I have no idea what's going on, whatever, and then put it back.
Yeah, that's true. But it's always very tricky with the American superhero comics because it's a jumping on point. Like, what do you mean a jumping on point? There's
right.
So, but in terms of quality, for me, also like in terms of how you approach it, as a big finale for like the whole like story, 5 out of 5 for me.
Oh, okay.
I just feel it was just really cool. Like I didn't see this volume as its own like free arc structure. I just saw it as a big finale for all the other stuff that's happened, which to me then makes it feel fine.
Right.
But in terms of on its own merits, like as yes, if you just got 4001 or you just got the volume or issue, I don't know, maybe 3 out of 5, just because of the confusion involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would be very confused. Like, okay, who's this guy? Who's that guy? And no amount of calligraphy in the beginning will help that.
Right. Well, I guess I'll kind of go with you. I mean, I also feel like it's a hard yellow light because it's basically, have you read Rye? And if you haven't, then yeah, you're having a lot of problem with this. And I guess I'll give it a 4 out of 5 just because I felt like it was just too long of a third act. It was just like a long third act. Just felt like a huge fight with very little story, but it was still good. Like it was well told in that sense, like for what it was. I did enjoy it. Maybe I wasn't like in the best mindset to read at the time, especially with my Kindle being weird because I couldn't read everything and had to zoom in and out all the time. It was really annoying. But otherwise, yeah, 4 out of 5, yellow light.
All right.
You can discuss this episode on Reddit, tweet us, or you can follow us on Facebook. Also, all of our episodes are available on our hosting site, Podbean. Links are in the show notes, and don't forget, #HurdleTurtle or #TurtleHurdle. Catch us next time for
Rye, Volume 4, 4001 AD.